The Venezuelan government reaffirmed the dignity of the people in the face of U.S. threats and criminalization attempts against constitutional President Nicolás Maduro. U.S. President Donald Trump deployed 800 soldiers of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. Monday as part of his promise to crack down on crime and homelessness in the nation's capital. And Palestinians in Gaza City held a funeral to honor the 6 Al Jazeera journalists and 2 civilians killed by an Israeli drone attack on Sunday. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The Venezuelan government reaffirmed the dignity of the people in the face of U.S. threats and criminalization attempts against constitutional President Nicolás Maduro. Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez warned that the South American nation has an organized, conscious, and empowered people and government willing to defend peace and willing to defend sovereignty. The Vice President denounced the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi's statements as part of imperialist strategies to destabilize governments that do not respond to U.S. interests. Rodriguez also emphasized that with these policies, Washington is only trying to justify invasions, assassinations, and humanitarian crises around the world.
Desencadenar una crisis con consecuencias catastróficas.
Public authorities in Venezuela have condemned the U.S. government's latest attacks on President Nicolás Maduro. The Secretary General of the PSUV, Diosdado Cabello, denounced attempts by extremist Western forces to subdue the will of the people and the Bolivarian Revolution by threatening and falsely accusing the head of state. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court of Justice has reaffirmed its position against these imperialist attacks. And in a recent statement, the body emphasized that Venezuelan institutions are constantly evolving to meet the needs of the nation. These institutions are strengthened by the active participation of organized people's power, which monitors legality and promotes general welfare in strict accordance with the Constitution and the laws.
Partido Socialista Unido de Venezuela.
The Anti-Fascist International of Uruguay expressed its support for Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro following the reward announced by Washington. Through a statement, the organization expressed the following: false accusations as a method to bring down non-like-minded governments is one of the most common practices of the U.S. It also called on the people and governments of our continent to denounce these imperialist actions and provide their solidarity with President Maduro and his Bolivarian political process. Otherwise, it would not only be abandoning the Venezuelan people, but also giving up the very possibility of developing sovereign processes in our countries and even avoiding war on our continent. ALBA movements expressed their rejection of President Donald Trump's attempted military attacks against Venezuela. In a statement, the ALBA movements assure the U.S. government has increased the reward for the capture of President Nicolás Maduro Moros. This crude imperialist action is accompanied by another of equal or worse caliber. The United States now decrees the existence of the so-called cartel of the Suns, an alleged drug trafficking gang with no physical presence in any international market, nor with paramilitary forces as other cartels supported by the DIA in Ecuador have. The communique adds the creation of this fantasy serves one purpose. The U.S. government authorizes its military to take action against this alleged group, which, according to its narrative, coincidentally operates in Venezuela. With this strategy, Donald Trump's imperialist government is offering a $50 million reward for the head of President Nicolás Maduro for allegedly being the leader of this non-existent cartel. According to the organization, this proposal is addressed especially to mercenary groups that have been trying to attack Venezuela and its president for more than a decade. The message is clear. The U.S. government wants to break Venezuela's democracy and sovereignty by military means. We call on the peoples of the world to condemn this imperialist attack, to demand that governments reject this interventionist action, and to urge everyone to be alert to the threat posed by the U.S. government, which continues to plague the continent and the world with misery and violence. And the Women's International Democratic Federation expressed Monday its solidarity with Venezuela and its president Nicolás Maduro in the face of the new threats by the United States government and accused Washington of trying to undermine the self-determination of the Venezuelan people. In an official communique, the international organization said, "This announcement is a ridiculous media maneuver full of aggressiveness which intends to destabilize the Bolivarian revolution. It is a serious abuse and an attack on the integrity of President Maduro and the self-determination of the Venezuelan people." The text expressed that Venezuela decided freely and with transparency at the polls to elect Nicolás Maduro as President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela in recognition of his leadership at the helm of the country, which today enjoys excellent economic and social results, as well as a new mechanism of consultation and citizen participation. It finally demands the end of the campaign of aggression and defamation against comrade Nicolás Maduro and calls the U.S. government to stop its interference in the region and to respect the people's right to self-determination and to peace. And now we go live to Venezuela, where the people is mobilizing as part of the great anti-imperialist march for peace and against the narco-terrorism of the fascist far right. We are seeing live images that shows with this demonstration that the people is showing its unconditional support for the head of state, for President Nicolás Maduro, democratically elected 1 year ago precisely, and the people is also expressing the rejection of the attempts of the threats of the attempt to intervene in the internal policies of the country in a maneuver performed and perpetrated by the U.S. government. This is a moment in which the people is showing the determination in defending peace, in defending stability, also in defending the social achievements that have been put forward by the government of President Nicolás Maduro in a march that comes after the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi offered a reward of $50 million for the capture of President Maduro based on lies, on false accusations of links to drug trafficking.
En alegría y en felicidad, y Venezuela seguirá en la paz, en alegría y en la felicidad que le da el presidente Nicolás Maduro.
And also we stay on topic. Venezuela submitted a new document yesterday to the International Court of Justice in the Netherlands, ratifying its sovereignty over the territory of the Guyana Esequiba. Venezuelan Vice President teleSUR Rodriguez indicated that the Presidential Commission for the Defense of the Guyana Esequiba had presented a 50-volume document that contained sufficient evidence regarding the historical truth of Venezuela's claim over the territory. Rodriguez pointed out that the text contains the background for the territory's criminal removal that began with an arbitrary award of 1899. The document also ratifies the legality of the 1966 Geneva Treaty as the only means to resolve the conflict between Venezuela and Guyana. Let's go over some of the main points of the statement that reads: Venezuela has once again demonstrated the solid legal and factual reasons behind its irrevocable historical position of not submitting to third parties, including the International Court of Justice, matters related to its vital interests such as its independence and territorial integrity. It continues, this document reaffirms the mandate of the Venezuelan people expressed in the December 3rd, 2023 referendum not to recognize the International Court of Justice nor any other judicial body to resolve this territorial controversy. Consequently, we do not recognize under any circumstances the fraudulent judicial process initiated by Guyana, nor will we abide by any ruling that may be issued in this matter. The submitted document indisputably establishes the collusion between the British Empire of the time and the United States of America to disregard Venezuela's historical titles and attempt to deprive it of this territory, which has belonged to Venezuela since its birth. Likewise, the document fully demonstrates that the 1966 Geneva Agreement is the only legal instrument binding Venezuela and Guyana to resolve the territorial controversy through a practical, satisfactory, and acceptable arrangement for both parties. Colombian Senator and presidential pre-candidate Miguel Uribe Turbay passed away on Monday after several days in critical state. The day before, Uribe had undergone emergency surgery at the Fundación Santa Fe Clinic, where he remained hospitalized after suffering a setback in his recovery to attempt a hemorrhage in the nervous system. 38-year-old Uribe, who was running in the upcoming presidential elections in Colombia, was shot 3 times, twice in the head, in an attack during a campaign rally in the city of Bogotá on June 7th. He remained in an intensive care unit for more than 2 months, with episodes of slight improvement.
Están desconociendo la separación de poderes, están poniendo en riesgo la democracia. A propósito, al nuevo ministro de Justicia lo vamos a recibir.
In this context, Colombian President Gustavo Petro sent condolences to Miguel Uribe's family and friends. On X, the head of state said that life is above any ideology. In a progressive, life-loving government, an attempt against an opposition senator took place with a tragic end. The reasons behind it, still under investigation, point to a different path than what was initially implied. The investigation must go deeper, and the corresponding authorities, with the help of international experts, will be the ones to do so. The government must reject the crime and provide help, no matter the ideology. A citizen and his family, his life and safety are the utmost priority for the government. We have not persecuted any opposition member, nor we will ever. Vengeance is not the path of Colombia. It is due to vengeance that we are experiencing decades of violence, no more. And now we have a short break coming up. But first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. U.S. President Donald Trump deployed 800 soldiers of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. on Monday as part of his promise to crack down on crime and homelessness in the nation's capital. The president's decision was announced in an executive order and follows his recent claim that the city had been taken over by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals. The Trump administration has also put Washington's police under federal control, and on the other hand, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser rejected Trump's claim, saying that violent crimes in the capital has hit a 30-year-old low. Trump's decision is unprecedented as it puts the White House deep into the day-to-day management of one of the nation's largest municipal police forces.
Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged-out maniacs and homeless people, and we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. The Metropolitan Police Department and the federal authorities will be supported in the effort, a really big effort, the 800 D.C. National Guardsmen that we'll put on, and much more if necessary.
In Brazil, the 22nd edition of the Agroecological Conference of the Landless Rural Workers Movement, MST, concluded in the state of Paraná. More than 100 exhibitors participated in the event with the aim of highlighting the importance of producing food free of agricultural toxics and genetically modified organisms, as well as building a more just and sustainable future. At the end of the day, participants planted olive trees in tribute and solidarity with the Palestinian people in the face of the constant Israeli attacks on Gaza. The topics discussed at the fair will be taken to the United Nations Conference on Climate Change, which will take place in the nation on November. In Haiti, the government established a 3-month state of emergency in several parts of the country as the fight against violence from criminal groups intensifies. In a statement issued this Saturday, the government announced that the measure will cover departments to the west and center and Artibonite, the latter experiencing a significant increase in attacks by armed groups in recent months. The document stated that given the magnitude of this crisis, it is essential to decree a major mobilization of state resources and institutional means to address it. Powerful armed groups, often linked to the country's business and political leaders, have been competing for influence and control of territory for years, affecting the lives of millions of people. And we have a second show break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final show break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Palestinians in Gaza City held a funeral to honor the 6 Al Jazeera journalists and 2 civilians killed by an Israeli drone attack on Sunday. Mourners took part in a funeral procession, taking the bodies of the slain martyrs from the Al-Shifa hospital to the cemetery for burial. The Gaza Information Office offered condolences to the victims' families and wished a speedy recovery to the wounded. The media professionals were killed while covering the devastation of the military offensive in Gaza. Zionist forces have killed more than 230 journalists and media workers since they began their bombings in the Palestinian enclave in order to silence and hide their atrocities.
Each time Israeli forces target our fellow journalists, it strengthens our resolve to continue reporting. We are talking about the systematic targeting of Palestinian journalists, moving from direct threats to carrying out the threat and killing so many in plain sight of the entire world. This is a systematic Israeli policy of killing Palestinians, especially the Palestinian journalists who themselves were arrested and injured.
And a large civilian flotilla is set to sail to Gaza at the end of August, carrying necessary supplies in a new attempt to break the humanitarian aid blockade imposed by the Israeli regime and to confront the ongoing genocide against the Palestinian people. The mission is organized by 4 groups: the Maghreb Sumud Flotilla, the Global Movement to Gaza, the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, and Sumud Nusantara. The initiative is set to send dozens of boats from Spanish ports on August 31st and Tunisian ports on September 4th. Activists from 44 countries, including environmental activist Greta Thunberg, who made the announcement on her social media, will be on board. The last attempt to break the Israeli siege on the enclave was that of Bessel Handala, which was intercepted by Tel Aviv's naval forces on July 26th.
Escalating for 22 months. Israel has dropped the equivalent of 8 atomic bombs.
Yes, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.